Yeah, but this was, but now I have to.
I couldn't tell you how that happened.
Alright.
Yeah.
Alright, good morning, commissioners meeting. I want to go back, but I won't.
Go ahead.
Minutes here, but it's really not, it's just a meeting.
Who would do something like that?
I know. All commissioners are
Who
present.
would draw attention to that?
I know.
That mistake.
Who started this down that road? So first off, elected officials and department head comments, unless I see any public, I don't see any public here, so I'm gonna keep on moving, so.
We have no audio on Zoom. We can't hear you.
How about now? Is that any better?
You hear us now?
Okay, something's wrong with the owl, I guess. Is he?
Oh, that's right. Well, I guess wherever we go. Oh,
Can you hear us now?
no, we can't.
Yeah.
Think that might be better.
Is that better now?
The volume's just really low.
We can turn that up.
Wait,
It's at the maximum actually.
now we're good. I'm good now.
Think it's good, yeah. It was cutting in and out really slightly at times and then worse, but it sounds pretty good now.
Okay, great.
All right. I'm gonna start it over, and then we'll start over officially. Now, commission meetings, Wednesday, July 17th. All commissioners are present, public comment, there is no public here that I see, so I'm gonna move on to department heads and elected officials. And I'll start with chief today.
Good morning, everyone.
I got you off guard, didn't I?
A little bit. My reason for being here is more,
Okay, so nothing else, you don't wanna just tell these guys about some of the numbers you just sent me,
so
mid-year kind of thing?
as of this morning, our numbers are be on track for about 4,500, 4,400 and 4,500 calls this year. Currently, we have a total of 2,203 calls with 916 of primary 911 coverage areas, so Swansea, Richmond, Marlborough, Stoddard, our actual transport communities. We've gone mutual aid to other communities 89 times, 240 paramedic intercepts, and just 10 public assist calls. Hospital transfers, we've done 513 to date.
I'm sorry, how many?
513.
Mhm.
Hospital and non-hospital transfers. So that could be your psych calls or hospice. 345. Other routine medical transports for doctor's appointments. On the IFT side, we're at 895.
Are we able to break that out by patient town?
Yes, so
Because I want to be able to demonstrate to the delegation that there's no town and no citizen from a town that we don't service, notwithstanding any contractual connections with them.
Right.
and yes, we can extrapolate that information. It's time for the delegation and going through the budget hearings, but Davis, can you pull up the county website?
Yeah, and Jack, just, while he's pulling it up, whether, I think I said this before, contractually right now, we have some level of responsibility. And, I say 19, if you include the city of Keene.
Yeah.
In their, towns in the city of Keene. And,
There's-
but because of wheelchair service and because of, interfacility transfers, we're in every single town. And
Well, I think-
sometimes the 911s cross over to cover when, if they need a medic or something.
Ideally, I'll tell you, what I'd like to see is that peppered on a map.
So anytime you gentlemen would like, you can go to our page on the county website and you click any one of those towns and you'll have up to date as soon as our crews complete a PCR electronically, patient care report. Once it loads, which it takes a few minutes sometimes, it'll run you through the response data to date for that town, anytime you choose. With the latest update in HERS, the emergency response reporting system, you'll see one of the slides that says no value. That's because of the change in one of the checkboxes that we're currently working on figuring out to get it to show exactly what it is. But it breaks down. This is pretty much our standard presentation that we gave last year to the delegation and executive board. Breaks down calls by time of day when it actually works, which and you can click through them. It's on about a 60-second timer for each page. It's the next. The colors aren't our choice. That's through Continuum, which is image trend and linked to any charts.
What are those symbols in the middle?
I'm just gonna. So there's symbols in the middle,
Those are zeros.
that just breaks, that's for the town of Winchester, so it shows what time of day. Responding. And it's just more of a data collection.
I also want, it would be helpful, I think, for us to reach out to Scott. Get similar information. Remember, at the end of the day, we can show county EMS and its subcontract penetrate every single community sometimes. That begins to build the base of a county-funded system. Think about this. County EMS operation comes in contact with more citizens, any other county service, or the Maplewood Jail, county attorney's office, probably more than the sheriff, and it could be. So we talk about how to fund EMS. And we talked about the number of citizens served in what towns. That's a big number. That's 8,000 citizen contacts just from Cheshire EMS, and there were 14 towns there. But this is why
That's why I say you had the 5 communities in the city of Keene on there.
and this is why identifying the patient zip code that from the interfacility transfer or the wheelchair begins to demonstrate that our penetration is in every single community in the county.
So Jack, you remember, when we first were talking to Scott Simons at Smart Ride, that he was averaging about 40 trips a week. 40 trips a week. We continue to grow in volume and capacity. Currently, I have 9 staff members that are currently transporting on the average 30 to 35 transports per day That equals out over a month's time to 1,023. But they used to do 400 a month. Or thereabouts, 300 to 400. Now they're doing over 1,000 a month. If you times that by 31, and I averaged it out to 30, 35, so I said 33. And that averages out to 1,023 transports they're doing a month.
To me, it becomes impossible to push back on this being a county funded service. You can identify that by us creating this service, we've met the needs of 25,000 citizens, more than any other service, more than the entire city of Keene. Right, the population of Keene is
Does the
25,000.
wheelchair service do more than just, you don't have to be in a wheelchair, do you?
Our Broda,
Yeah,
here's
You
here,
have to be in a wheelchair
Well,
to transport.
no,
well,
I mean, I'm talking about somebody, somebody who, some sort of illness where they have to go to the hospital once a week or something like that from Bob, for example. Could they use the wheelchair service to get there?
well, it's not.
Uh, it's not a
it's not a
transport.
it's not a taxi service per se.
Yeah, there has to be some sort of medical necessity.
Well, yeah, that's what,
Because they want to build. So that you merely, because your son isn't available to take to a doctor's appointment, probably will.
no, I don't talk about that.
Okay.
I mean, there are things you have to know occasionally when you're not feeling well.
That would be a question for Scott. I'm not 100% sure. It really is more about wheelchair. But if you go the other direction, and in the other direction, the Broda transport system that they're using, expansion to stretcher transport continues to increase in demand.
I still want to see that. So,
And we have, and they have experienced a market growth in night and weekend requests for services. So you asked that, I had already asked that, so he sent that to us because I'll talk to you about it a little bit
but
more.
within a few years, once we kind of get some 12, 15, 20 months worth of normalized data, the argument towards making it county funded be appropriate. And when you can demonstrate that this service among every other service combined county provides, funded by the county taxes, serves more people. A tough argument to push back and say, oh, no, it's just. I don't think the delegation understands the extent of the penetration.
Yeah.
Into every corner of this county.
Right,
And I don't think we would have seen.
I mean, if you look at his numbers alone, that's over 12,000 months he's doing in
Yeah.
a year.
Yeah, so
And
we've got
we're heading towards, we're heading towards 4,500.
15,000 people touched
If I
by,
remember right, the only.
Over
real
16,000.
position-
right. And I'll bet you, well, I know for certain that we've transported Hinsdale
You know, we do.
citizens, because I've talked to them. I sat next to him and he said, boy, thank God for your ambulance service, because I dropped like a rock and they took me to Cheshire. And then next thing I know, I'm up in Lebanon and I'm back to work in 3 days.
And here's the other thing that gets lost, and I know it's the political side of it, but we're up in Concord too. We're up in Concord, or we're working with others, trying to change the system as a whole, which benefits everybody. If we are able to change some of the things that we want up there, then Jaffrey's gonna be stronger, because all of a sudden they may see a level of increase coming in from projects that they haven't seen in the past. If we work on what we're talking about with Medicare, that may help Medicaid also go up and Medicare go back up. Yeah, all those things are gonna help everybody. The city of Keene is gonna help. It's gonna, everybody's gonna be stronger for the work we're doing. Those things are lost, that we weren't a player at the table, and they were struggling, and we were told it's important for us to be at the table.
We met with our federal National Association of Counties legislative folks to get them to get their team around. Either additional funding through Medicare to change rates, it's like them, at least for the next 20 years, but also some other supplemental funding, either through USDA or other government entities to subsidize rural pre-hospital. And if we can get them to start that conversation at the national level, actually increase some of those Medicare rates. And now that we've had some success getting the Medicaid rates in New Hampshire equal to the Medicare rates, if they track each other, you have luck at the federal level, and guess what? The Medicaid local match goes up. So, so there's some dynamic there that with some national help, we can start a broader conversation. It's not just about us.
Yeah, and this, and transport by destination, this is where we're transporting them to. This will be 911s, I'm guessing, right?
This is mostly, yes.
If you want to see anything in specific, let me know. It just automatically cycles through every minute.
But you understand the kind of the single visual illustrative
We get it,
penetration.
yeah,
That,
and I'd like to have it done. You all, if there's anything that we need to. But to change
because
that,
I think that just will send a profound message, huge message. And it'd be very difficult for anybody to be critical, that level of impact.
Yeah.
Because no other service combined
yeah,
touches that many people. So it's pretty amazing.
yeah. And I think it's also, you know, I know that the city of Keene at times has had concerns about how we are, you know, about the nursing calls that they have within the city. And two things on that is, one, it shows that we're holding up our end of it by developing this service on the wheelchair side. And also is that we're coming into the city, and we've probably been in the city close to 150 times, I'm guessing, or in that ballpark.
And
And
providing coverage.
providing coverage, which
Right.
means that we could end up going on that, but more importantly, this comes from Scott Simons from Smart Ride, and he said, we have been working closely with Cheshire County EMS as well as Keene Fire to provide solutions for the skilled nursing facilities in the area to try to compress the EMS system, and I'm impressed with the collaboration that we're working to build. So, I mean, and I talked to him directly, he said, never seen this. Usually it's all these silos and all this, you know, you should be applauded for creating that relationship and developing that, because it wasn't there a year and a half, 2 years ago.
Sure, silos aside, that's certainly what, there just wasn't the capacity.
Yeah, and yeah,
So,
That, but it's also been, if I may, a team effort
Sure.
between myself, the acting fire chief with Keene, Jason Martin, my two deputies of Ed Atkins and Mark Kramer, being able to reach out, and especially Ed with his contacts throughout the county. Because he's been a resident here his entire life. That allows us even more access that we may not have had prior.
Right.
So we are currently and continuing to break down those silos, but it's a team effort with Scott Simons from Smart Ride and all the entities, like Scott was saying, of we have to collaborate because we're all of the same mindset of we're here for the citizens of Cheshire County.
so does mutual aid track? Do we create a ticket when we cover Keene?
They do. At times, we're tracking it internally
Okay.
when we hear it, but we're evolving that process as well. So it's, again, myself and the chief are discussing how to move forward with it.
Because that'll be important data.
well, also want to have Scott really break down it a little bit too on when he's in the city. When he's in the city, how many of those runs are nursing home runs that he's taking somebody back to or to the hospital or whatever. That will be interesting for me to see too. Because there's been a growth there. I mean, if he's doing over 1,000 runs a month. So,
Yeah, this is so cool. This is so good that I don't want to miss the opportunity to present as much data as possible succinctly, visually,
Right.
and easily to people that this is not what they do. you know?
Right.
So
yeah,
it's all about county
We'll be
impact.
sitting down as he starts to craft his budget too, but we'll also sit down with everybody and just say, this is what we're gonna be needing and how do we craft it? And I don't wanna make it, I wanna make it easy to read. So that we don't, I mean, stuff that's up here is good,
Yeah.
but
I
it's a
think the
little bit,
easiest-
I wanna bring it down another level.
The easiest way to do it would be the heat map. Which is the first slide that pops up, so you have the reds, yellows of the concentration of where most of the calls are. So I've already wrote it down of, we'll get it so it's the entire county by patients zip code or home zip code, and then we can get that up there as well.
Yeah,
Great.
I'll go through it on multiple levels with you and just, I'll want some stuff to,
Yeah. I mean, we want to be able to just present much data as we can that properly reflect.
And what I'd like to do is do a few test runs, so even before budget season, if we have some level of it together, let's present it.
Right.
Let you guys see if we're missing something, add to it, change some things and keep going so that when we have it ready to go, it's.
You know, and also,
And I don't know whether we, that this, the other thing we'll talk about too, is like, do we start telling the story? Because the full delegation is there right away in December, when you guys present your budget. Do we present it there and then we reinforce it again at the executive committee through the process, but we'll see.
it's the next delegation meeting,
August,
August 19th.
let's see, 12th and 7 is 18, right? Then the 12th is the executive committee
Yeah.
meeting and the delegation meeting is 7 days later. 7 is 19.
19.
Yeah, I said
Yeah,
18.
you said, no, you said 19, I believe. Yeah.
Alright. Okay, minutes.
So I've
I
got,
was covering for you, you know?
I got executive committee Monday the 12th, delegation meeting Monday the 19th.
Yeah,
Correct,
10 AM and 7.
right,
PM.
you're over in Portsmouth on the 19th.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
So 10 AM on the
12,
12th.
yep, and then 7 PM on the 19th.
I'll
Both in
check
delegation.
it out, because, and I'm also concerned about the thing of the nursing home in terms of rates and that sort of thing, because that's a very similar issue in terms of demographics and waiting list. And even national in terms of, there's simply not enough nursing home beds for everybody in the country. There never has been, but demographically, you didn't need it. But if we go, you think that, a substantial portion of the New Hampshire population will be 80 years old by 2020, by 2030. But you have to ask the question, how are you going to take care of these people that otherwise might end up in a nursing home for a short period of time or a long period? I mean, statistically, in the old days, about 10 to 15% of the population somehow or other made their way through permanently, long-term, skilled. But with a quadrupling people over age 65, there's going to be just a huge demand, which will both the free hospital care then, as well as mobile integrated healthcare and the wheelchair trend, everything else.
But it's, in my world, you hit upon it because it's the perfect storm that's developed in that we already knew we didn't have enough beds. And then you add on top of it, the working shortage, so that's even less beds. And we got the boomers living longer and having to have some place to go. And so all those mixed together, I agree with you, we have to come up with continue to fight the system, come up with a plan to ensure that we're getting the level of funding we need. To ensure that we have the capabilities to, because, and at some point, somebody's gotta break the monster Center for Medicaid Services. It's its own little governmental body that throws out over 600 pages a year of changes that are expected of nursing homes. Nursing homes are has the most oversight and regulate, it's the most regulated system out there, even more so than hospitals. Oh.
James, conference room open downstairs? Do you wanna hang out or are you gonna go?
Wait. Is Mike here?
Well, one of don't you keep him here?
All right now.
Okay.
See you, Don.
So. So there's just, you know. The whole demographic shift of the baby boomers through the next 20 years is gonna strain everything. I just don't wanna miss the opportunity to draw attention to that conversation locally and nationally,
Yeah,
because I don't know what people like Chief are gonna do. 80 gazillion calls from 75, 80-year-olds and no place to take them and no way for them to meet their needs and no way for the system to accommodate them. It's a real, it is, whatever we go through now to take people to Albany, but
Well, I think part of that is the community outreach that we're looking into and again, it all comes down to collaboration with Monadnock Family Services, different crisis intervention teams, different NGOs or entities that are already in place throughout the county to help the infirm, the ones that just can't be a caretaker anymore for their loved one. Because as you all been saying, we reach every corner of the county in some way, shape or form. A lot of it is when people don't know what to do, they call 911, they get an ambulance. And we're showing that they're going to consistently get an ambulance when they call 911. Seen in this county before. So that leads us into how do we answer this question of the baby boomers as they become more infirm.
yeah, and I mean, but it's, we just gotta, we have to remind people whether people wanna see this happen or not. County is evolving and trying to meet the needs. I mean, we're in 5 towns with law enforcement, that gets lost in the conversation.
well, I'd almost phrase it a little differently, but same thing. County is the only level of government that's positioned to respond to this local demographic pressure. There's nobody else that has the capacity, the history, the skills, anything else.
Yeah.
Um,
And it's
so
not,
we're not evolving because we necessarily want to, but there simply is no,
I agree with that 100%. The evolution is not something that we're looking for. It's something that's coming to us. It's something that communities just don't have another alternative, and we
Right.
are able to step up and make that happen. So I agree with that point. So it's not gonna stop.
Recent meeting down in Tampa.
Yeah.
Based on our success, that was presumably mentioned in the receiving conference. Do you think this is the beginning of a trend? For counties to reaching out with EMS services?
well,
We were told that there's another county that's looking at it. I'm not gonna, unless it's public knowledge, and I don't know if it is. I'm not gonna bring that up, but we were told that there's another county looking at it, but again, if another county's looking at it, they're looking at it because of what is happening in their communities, and if they, and if they have the ability to step up and do what is needed to be done.
the dearth of volunteers, the increase in demand is a nationwide conversation.
Yeah,
In New Hampshire, just a little more numbers before that conversation picks up, it's my sense, but
Yeah.
and I think we're also kind of uniquely positioned to be the first county that had enough knowledge to get into this field. Just by dint of fate.
And by commissioners.
Yes, something like that.
but I mean, but it's a.
did give us a little.
But it's been a huge, it helped us significantly, but it's a huge undertaking, a huge learning curve. And because we'll be learning 5 years from now, we'll still be learning. and the systems and how, what the financials look like and all that, that's still trending. That's still in development. And people need to understand that that's gonna be that way for at least the next 3 to 4 years. And that we'll then finally start to get a rhythm and understand what we're looking at. So, all right, I'm gonna, Chief,
Okay.
I know you're here for something else, but
Get the idea.
you're all set otherwise? Okay, Doug, do you have something for us today? How's the paving?
The paving is on hold.
Okay,
They're just waiting. It's fine. No, I actually don't. I'm just listening in.
okay. Kim, anything or just listening in and gonna participate in the conversation later on? Yes?
I'm gonna participate in the conversation later on, but I need I need approval for a non-FMLA leave of absence. One of our employees up at Maplewood is getting married in October. And then they're going to New Zealand for their honeymoon for 3 weeks. And she will not have enough vacation time to cover that whole time. So I just want to have her approved to have all of that time off, even though probably a week and a half of it will be without pay.
I so move.
All right.
Does she want to revisit her marriage plans?
All in favor, Commissioner Wasback,
Aye.
Commissioner England, and Commissioner Clark.
Yes.
Okay, thank
you.
you. I think that's everybody that's up there, so we have nothing on the schedule items. So I'm gonna move on to my report, start off with, this came down this week from Catherine up at the nursing at Catherine Kindle, so I guess House Bill 1336 has been signed and is relative to employees, firearms and locked vehicles, effectively making it a condition of participation in Medicaid program to allow your employees to conceal ammunition and firearms in their locked vehicles on your property effective January 1, 2025.
It allows it?
Allows it. So she just wanted us to make us aware that individuals now will be able to have gun. Well, they'll have to change some of their policies.
They don't have, they can't bring them in.
No, they just could be on the grounds.
You know, even if the law allowed them to bring it into the building, I would still not allow that. And I'd let the state come after us. That's just bullshit.
Yeah.
Because if that's the case, then I want them to do it at the campaigns.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah. Just wanted to make you aware that that's something I knew.
because we don't really have any mechanism that happens now.
No, we don't. We don't. But this does allow it, and this can be no adverse action be taken against the employee for having that done.
But
Well, how does that, but
What's the statute again?
it's on public property. It's House Bill 1336. My thing is, and I guess Doug is here, and I haven't looked at the bill 100% yet. And but how would that go with the DOC
I don't know. Doug, do you let employees bring their guns to work?
and have them locked in their cars?
Yeah, they could do that. They can't enter the facility with them, with their personal weapons.
The signs that we have leading up to the jail that have some statutory reference that I've gotten in years. Do you remember what that is off the top of your head?
It
Weapons.
says something like it's a government facility. Doesn't mention anything about weapons. I forget if it says to the effect of being on something about trespassing or being on premises without authorization. It's one of those things you see it every day, but you stop looking at it.
Stopped looking at it a long time ago.
So does HB 1336 allow for just nursing homes or all public,
All public buildings,
all public?
they can have it outside, they can't have it
Okay, and
inside,
that's just for employees or anybody?
employees.
So, for employees, well, it's probably.
It's probably across the board, but this was addressed about employees not being able to do that.
Just out of curiosity,
Look at it.
Doug, how many people on your staff
36.
do carry guns?
Oh, I have no way to know, but it's a fairly high percentage, folks in the field and law enforcement are enjoy hunting and shooting, target practice. I would say it could be as high as 25% own a personal firearm, maybe a little more if you count hunting. That's
So
a
are any
guess, a complete guess, just hearing, conversations and.
See, and you also have, transport people, do they take weapons from,
Well, there are weapons.
there are weapons that they take?
Yeah,
Okay.
they can't use a personal weapon. We have
They have to.
Glocks that are provided and brought for transports, yeah.
This is just about one big paragraph. You want me to read?
Yeah, read
it really quick? So this is only related to pistols and revolvers. It amends RSA 159 by inserting this new section. An employer or an agent of an employer may not prohibit an employee who may legally possess a firearm from storing a firearm or ammunition in the employee's vehicle while entering or exiting the employer's property or while the vehicle is parked on the property, as long as the vehicle is locked and the firearm or ammunition is not visible. An employer or agent of an employer is prohibited from requiring an employee to disclose whether or not the employee has a firearm in their vehicle. No searches of the employee's vehicle may occur, except by a law enforcement officer. No employer shall take any adverse action against an employee who stores a firearm in accordance with this section. Employer or agent of an employer may not be held liable in any civil action for any damages for any economic loss, injury, or death resulting from or arising from another person's action involving a firearm or ammunition stored pursuant to this section, including but not limited to the theft of the firearm, unless the employer or an agent of the employer intentionally solicited or procured the other person's actions. This section applies to the state or any municipality as an employer when the state or municipal employee's vehicle is on the property owned or leased by the state or municipality. This section shall not be construed to authorize an employee to carry a firearm in any place where carrying a firearm is prohibited by law. This starts January 1st, 2025.
Isn't there a federal law? Schools that you can't, I mean, in my day, there were guns, guys were coming directly into school in high school. Hunting, and they had their gun racks, the guns were there, but, isn't there a law, federal law saying you can't have guns on?
Yes, that's the Gun-Free School Zones Act of 1990.
How does that put in peril, does that go like this?
I don't think it would be, because I'm guessing that they utilize, I'm guessing this bill would probably utilize the difference between being on and being in your personal vehicle. Possibly.
Well, it's an interesting question,
So as long
because
as,
arguably you can't have boundary
Right.
Yeah, because it's
30 feet to.
difference
So that's what-
between,
that's what
there's a
I'm thinking,
difference
they want to have to do
between
with the vehicle.
driving on the property with the gun and then actually stepping out of the vehicle.
That's what I'm thinking. That's maybe how they
That's
get
insane.
around it being
That's
property.
insane. Make any sense?
Yeah, anything that's defined as a school zone. So
Interesting.
a school zone would definitely include the parking lot
Yeah,
on the school grounds.
doesn't neither here or there, I guess, because we're not a school that we're talking about, but just thought I'd bring it up to you.
Still interesting.
Well, there was language in there that unless otherwise prohibited by law. Right in that
Yes.
second paragraph.
So I guess schools specifically because of this are likely completely prohibited. It's funny they didn't at least mention it though.
So next on the list is last week I sent, I had Cheryl send some things to you all pertaining to ProShare and, also, opiate, suggestion for, for how we would fund programming for, the lawsuit funding. So, I want to be quick into that, I would want to also add in the possibility, if you agree with me, that the ban that we gave to Marpa is a key to their, actually a key to their service. But it's been having some transmission issues. So, Scott reached out to me this week,
The white man,
white van. Scott reached out to me and the band's service and evaluated for potential problems that, and he brought it after getting recommendations from others to Keene Transmission Exchange in Sullivan. And is currently back in service. However, the individual at Keene Transmission Exchange feels it will need to be Tricia will need to be replaced in the near future. So he wanted to begin the conversation on the best plan moving forward. As he says, it's also, I believe that the band has many more circles of years left in it. It's also an integral part of our current operation.
miles.
He doesn't list it here. I can ask, but he doesn't have it here.
So when we leased to them for a buck,
Yeah,
so
Well,
they're responsible for major repairs.
yes.
well, I think it's in the lease.
It's in the lease. I'm just telling you all this so that because I'm gonna add the pricing into
What are they, $3,000-4,000?
$6,000.
$6,000.
$6,000 replacement with a $6,000 replacement for 5-year warranty. This includes parts and labor. The purchase transmission would be manufactured transmission from a transmission specialist. And that's when he started to talk about his growth and all that stuff. So I'll be adding that into the overall number. And having him move forward with it, no matter what, if he needs to. He's been a great partner. He is, worked closely with the chief, and their success is only seeing this community down.
It would be an interesting data point to know the number of miles that he has traveled across all his vans, total number of miles.
How many vehicles do they have?
I think they are up to, they have the availability of, 6 vans. The availability, but they probably run about 4 a day, 24/7. Or at least have people on call 24/7. You know, that, and a lot of them now live in this, and remember, he was based in Peterborough, but now has an office on Oxbury Street. Where you can see 2 of his vans, or 3 of his vans parked there. And that's on purpose because majority of their calls late at night come from Cheshire Medical. And if they have people in the city that can go pick up a van and to go do what they need to do, then that works out for everybody involved.
Get a overall mechanical assessment to determine whether or not it's worth what it's 6,000. A lot of times you can. A lot of times body is.
At this point, it's only 2.5 years old.
Well,
It was new when we bought it.
Sure.
Yeah, he was
I'm
right.
not sure.
The Keene Transmission Exchange, and he was recommended to us by several fleet maintenance folks, and the reason as being one of the best transmission work, best for the transmission work. It currently, it's back in service. Let's see. Yeah, I can find out some of that information, but he does believe that the van has many more service years left in it. And it was in great condition when we had it, and when we handed it over to him, it is what it is.
Can you remind me how is Smart doing financially? Are they constantly in the black?
Think that with all the runs they're doing, with the contracts that they were able to negotiate with the hospital, they're doing extremely well.
Do you
And
think part of their agreement was,
We can, and well, Scott,
and I wouldn't do that in public sector.
yeah, Scott, I said the second, no, but I said it sent a second, when after we were going back about the last email I sent, said, would you be able in the near future, able to come in and just give us an update, because I think the commission would love to hear. Yeah, so he's aware of that, he said, just give me the time and date and I'll make sure I'm there.
Why don't we get that in the next few weeks?
We'll get it in early August.
Okay.
Because I'll be away for 2 weeks.
The count does that come out?
I would suggest that we utilize brochure funding. So it makes all this, the world's consistent.
So we don't have an overall view.
Vehicle repairs are attached to the department.
Is that gonna change once we get a fleet thing all put together?
It could if it worked. I don't think we know that a fleet maintenance formalization either save money or benefit us
What
greater
we're,
than we're getting now, but I don't know.
what we're finding on some levels is that the departments seem to be having their own rhythm dealing with this, and it works. And the chief has somebody that oversees the deputies' vehicles. That you have Ed and others that are overseeing the ambulances and making sure that they get their oil changes, tire changes, all those things, aside from everyday inspections that they do.
I do think it makes sense for the county to have this august group to make sure that we have a policy that says, hey, departments, you can handle your own maintenance of your own fleet, but you gotta meet the minimum manufactured standards. Because here's what we get into with one department that is nameless. They don't do that. They change the oil and do some other things, but when we inherited one vehicle from a department, there was warranty work, which wouldn't have cost us anything to fix. It was never done. And normal maintenance, but when you're driven to just want new cars, your interest in maintaining the old ones, it's not always as strong.
Yeah, I mean, it's nice to have each individual department, you know, looking at their vehicles. They're the ones driving, and who notices squeaks and knocks and stuff like that. But beginning to have quite a few vehicles, or responsible for quite a few vehicles now, so it might make sense to be able to put that under one roof, where you have one accounting and you have one maintenance sheet. You could put it all together and sort of look, so you're looking at the thing at higher altitude.
That's
You
a
could, you
fairly,
could just, you could just make better decisions.
Oh,
well, I suppose you could outsource the fleet maintenance. You can't do what the city can. Can't have your own maintenance shop, all the inventory.
No.
Massive garage.
That's
Well, I mean,
really expensive.
But aren't we looking into that? We haven't,
we're
You-
working with
you said-
Enterprise, we've been working with Enterprise, they have a system. That a fleet maintenance system that goes from purchase to resale. And everything in between, and all the cool stuff, and they have software that we can utilize. They had a meeting set up with them, I couldn't attend the meeting, I was in another meeting.
Yeah.
But something happened with the communication, he couldn't speak or something.
Yeah, it was just.
And so-
But we'll have
Yeah,
it
so,
next.
so we have another meeting set up. We'll be, because he's starting to put down the number, start to put together the numbers. What we could possibly save and the process that would entail. And then we would bring that all back to you. I think he's presented to you all already.
Oh, I don't think so.
He did.
Really?
He joined a Zoom meeting.
Yeah.
This was we've been working on this for a
Yeah.
few months now, so probably back in.
Yeah.
March, I would assume.
gosh, I don't remember that.
I don't either.
You must not have been
Were we there?
appreciable.
Try to see.
I was getting coffee.
There's also a fleet maintenance company behind Cheshire Tire. Something or other.
But,
Really?
anyway, getting back to the, chairman.
Yeah. And that's what I said. too.
Yeah,
I said,
we should probably do that this year.
Yeah,
This budget.
I think what we would do is just move forward and then
If we,
utilize funding that put back. in.
if we have, auto repairs or equipment. repairs, County then. Have enough room left, we can go over. In a way, it's part of the EMS.
Yeah.
So it's all,
And I'm not worried about that side of it. I just want to make you aware of it. You're comfortable with it, then I'm gonna move forward and do that, so. Okay, just a follow-up to, I had a conversation with Senator Clinton yesterday. He's on board. We're drafting a letter, send to him, and the letter is in reference to our mutual aid. And that whole discussion we've been having, how we sent the packet to Homeland Security Director or Commissioner Buxton. And he then forwarded it on to the governor. So as he takes a look at what he's gonna use how he's gonna utilize ARPA funding at the end of the day, we're hoping that he is able to utilize some of that monies towards the mutual aid and the upgrades there. And so after talking with the senator, he's willing to not just sign it, but also reach out to Senator Riccardi who's also in our region and also in the Hillsborough region, and also Senator Ward. And said that the three of them he believes that he won't have a problem with the three of them signing the letter and then sending it on to the governor on our behalf. It can't hurt. So. Yeah. Just this weekend in review, any thoughts about this weekend? Bob may want to know some of the highlights.
what happened in Tampa.
Yeah,
It was good, actually. I mean, there must have been lots of people there.
yeah.
1,026 counties and in the country. But it was helpful. I think that legislative meeting that we had was probably the pinnacle.
Yeah.
You know, aside from our accolades, but
Yeah, we met with an individual and it wasn't just one topic of Medicare and increase that. Those costs, but what also was about fire mutual aid, Southwest Fire Mutual Aid, and if there's way that, because our issue is not just our issue alone, it's across the country. And that this 911 system infrastructure is is failing. And that we need to come up with a plan for that. And so we were able to have them understand that in our world, there's a short-term solution and there's a long-term solution. Short-term solution is if there's all this last mile money that's come into all the states, with New Hampshire getting about $149 million for that last mile infrastructure, can language be changed to chop out a portion? It doesn't have to be a big number, but it's a portion to be able to address some of these needs because. And I think he got it, that, human error caused Massachusetts to lose their 911 system. And they were able to switch a button back on and everything came back up. If our systems go down, we don't have that button to turn on. It's down. And that means people's lives are in crisis unless we can find something on eBay to replace the parts. And that's not the way to do the system. It has to be upgraded. It has to be upgraded now, and then we move on. So that was the meeting. Dan, and he reached out to me and to Dan. Well, to me, and then I directed it to Dan, and Dan gave him, because Dan had talked about some process they've used many years ago that was able to get funding in place.
the LEAA.
Yeah, LEAA. And so he's hoping that can, and so he now understands what that is. And so that's been straightened out. So I think he was excited by this. And also what it did to me is it made me aware that there may be committees that any of us may want to sit on, down there this weekend. Do we want to become players on a national stage? Sit on some of these committees, give New Hampshire more of a voice than it already has. I mean, yes, Commissioner Pappas is on a committee. I don't know, I think that's about it for New Hampshire. Maybe Kate sits on something,
Yeah,
but I don't think Wendy does, and I don't believe Kathy does at this point, but I believe Kathy Stacy is the Register of Deeds for Rockingham.
we used to have two or three more that did, but they're all aged out now.
Yeah, Tom Toparilla or Chuck Weed.
Carol Holden and Leo.
Yeah, so I just think it's an opportunity.
Participation, man.
Yeah. So maybe things that people want to do, and I don't think it's a heavy lift, because what I understand is a lot of it's done by Zoom. And then like once or twice a year, they get together for, things that they want to start pushing forward and how to framework that. So, I just think it's something to think about. I'm gonna get a list of those committees sent to me so that I can understand that better too, to see if there's an opportunity for us to join on. And there was some, I mean, I don't know, you guys went to some sessions, I went to some, that they were useful actually. And some of it was a measuring stick for me that, wow, they're here. They're actually here doing some really good stuff, so feeling good about that. Any other thoughts? Except for it was hot and muggy. And at
I
times,
understand that it was hotter up here.
But yeah,
yeah,
yeah, we left 85 degrees and came up here at 90.
yeah. But the mugginess down there was something different down there. Next week, we don't have a meeting, just so you know. That's unless you guys feel like the need to have the meeting. I'm away next week, but the following week. Meeting. You guys need a meeting next week.
And
We always leave it open that in case that in an emergency level, we'll have a meeting.
and the meeting on the next, as long as next week is canceled, the meeting after that is at Maplewood for the QAIC meeting, so we start at 9:30 instead of 8:30. But of course, I'll remind you as we get closer.
So the 24th is it?
No meeting then, first.
And just
Actually, since-
finish up the rest of the agenda.
We can finish up the rest of the agenda, but also, wanted to just talk to you more about share funding
Oh, right.
and.
Did you say Cheryl sent out an email? 'Cause I don't
Yeah.
See,
Yes, yes, she did. That was about a week and a half.
right,
And I had
It
talked
was a
about
very
it,
short email. It was just an attachment.
yeah. I had talked about it prior meeting, but you weren't here at that meeting. You were away.
Okay.
Just trying to find this.
I'll try to just talk about it. I'll find.
Send this to your phones right now.
That email just. And. Never know. They say. Happens in Tampa, stays in Tampa.
There's always. All right, sending it.
You doing? Did you put the attachment on it?
It should be.
Hasn't come in. Got the email, but not the attachment. Really, you got the email on it? Yeah.
Put it.
Down at the bottom. Maybe it just doesn't show up on my phone. Do you have a little thing that says load content? I'm sorry, I won't be able to read it anyway. So. All right, we'll just start talking about it. Got 5.2 million. Thought we might get 3 million. That means we got about 2.1 million more than we anticipated.
Right. So, you know, what my suggestion would be is the, is below. And, so I'm gonna start with, you know, last year we looked at the Greater Manhattan Collaborative Chamber of Commerce. I think we're still in the midst of needing to. We're in a process that we need to continue to support. They have currently billed us for over a little over 60,000 of the 100,000 that we set aside, the matching fund. And what we're looking at, but they have promised 90,000, but they're not gonna bill us until they get those other monies. And they believe that they'll hit the 100,000 mark by no later than probably October. So they're excited by that. They're incredibly appreciative. You've heard their story. And I'd like to do 75,000 this year. And it would be a matching fund where businesses step up again and continue to do what we need to do. That's one. Center Street parking lot sidewalk, there's some work that needs to be done there, up here, right out here. There's some work that needs to be done.
On our property.
On our property.
Oh, yeah.
So, we're gonna be taking care of that.
Well, can we look at the retaining wall too? Retaining wall, actually, getting moved out.
We've been doing some maintenance of it, but, I can have them look at it, but
But you know what I mean? So the
Yeah.
blocks.
yeah, he's replacing some of the blocks, but he's doing that. He believes he can do that himself through the budget process.
Okay.
If you've noticed too, we've also put in, taken out certain areas and put in bigger rocks. And like around the pipes that come down from the building. We now have bigger rocks because we had little rocks. Full of water that's coming out of that was just pushing them all over the yard, so. We've actually dressed it up a little bit, it looks better. And over here by the entryway into MCDP, you'll see that we've done some thicker rocks there too, where it comes off. So, for your windows, as you know, we initially thought this was going to be about a $25,000 cost because everybody was telling us initially that we had to replace the whole thing. Was it
What do you mean, foyer
the
windows?
foyer windows, if, you know, as you start to go up the stairs in the old courthouse,
This end of the building?
this end of it down here. So if you go up the stairs by the elevator, go up the stairs, there's a group of windows right there. And some of them are foggy.
That's really the new courthouse,
That's
not the
new,
new courthouse.
it's the new, yeah, okay.
It's not this
You mean
building,
right here
it's that-
down on the first?
Yeah, it's the new portion, the 1979 portion of the
okay.
building
Okay,
is those windows. Now they're telling us they can just take the glass out and replace them.
I
Right,
said that before.
well,
But again,
Rob looked into it. This was initially a few years ago when we were looking at it, we were told they had to do the whole thing, and now they're saying, no, just, so we have three quotes, He's going with the lowest quote, and, so that's the four windows. TV screen.
It's the lowest reasonable quote.
Mhm. Yeah, it's the same, it's the lowest quote is actually the people that put in the door, the new doorway right there. So we've used them before. TV screens at delegation hall, it's really one TV screen. And would it be, you know where the clock is here on this wall? We want to put a TV screen there, because all too often what happens is Dan or somebody speaking, and there might be people on the screens, but you can't unless you turn to see them. So
Oh, yeah.
we would like to have a TV on this side, so whoever's leading the discussion, whether you know, we've had multiple trainings where people have to keep turning to see if anybody has any questions,
And then they lose the mic.
and then they lose the mic. So what we do is we'll have it where the clock is and there, and then out here, we want to put something smaller that will have the calendar and all, but most of the time we'll have a picture or something. It'll look like a frame, and it can, you know, and you just, but somebody can hit it and see, it will have the calendar, of who's where. So that's what we're looking.
You think we need that?
I don't know, I mean, we have some piece of, we have a
That was
calendar,
more editorial.
yeah, I know.
Yeah.
But we do have a paper document that floats around here, gets lost at times, and so we'll see. The lifeguards certification, the money has ended. It's been 3 years when we put it in. And even this year, Jaffrey sent us a bill for over $1,000 because they have kids. What we did is that it came about when the ARPA monies came in, and I really noticed it when the city of Keene said they weren't opening up Robin Hood Pool because they didn't have licensed lifeguards. If you get Andy Bohan in here, he'll tell you, he said it in the paper, that Cheshire County had a great and huge impact. Because they now this year have 20 licensed lifeguards working the pools areas, and it's made a huge difference for them. So, yeah, I wanna go back and say, can we do that? Because it's Fringe, it's Jaffrey, it's Winchester, it's all over the county that have used this through their town, rec departments. And they bill us, and we just invoice it out, and in that way, kids
So
can,
these are regular classes.
it's certification for
Certification.
becoming a lifeguard.
Yeah.
They're about, each class is about $300 some odd. And it's opened it up so that people can get
Yeah, I
that,
thought that originally was a very good idea.
oh, good.
The real thing to be mindful of. It becomes a slippery slope when you do it so many years in a row that it becomes an expectancy. You know, you slide yourself into another budget item, but
Well, that's true, because we reacted because there was shortage of lifeguards. And that may not always be the case, but then on the other hand, reason that supply increased is because of those classes. And I don't know what they were doing before.
If
Well,
it's
they
a
would pay for it
self-sustaining,
themselves.
if it's a self-sustaining program, which it appears to be, I'm paying.
well, they're not though.
They're not, they're sending us the invoice.
We're simply helping them fund.
Oh, yeah,
to-
yeah, we're helping them by. And I don't, on some levels, I don't disagree with you, I just think that, but we've had control of it, and it starts with, in the past, we told Andy, this is what we have this year. And if, when it runs out, it runs out. And if this is not included in there, then all I do is I just communicate through him. He sends it out to all the other, and they know that it's next year they're on their own.
You said we done.
It's, the second year of our funding, we've done it, so it's 3 years now.
So this is,
So you're saying, yeah,
it's enough for 33 lifeguards a year.
but I guess my point is typically the towns pay this for the individual that wanted it. Certification, but pay for it. Over 10-year period, it's $100,000, you know. We're gonna have continuing issues that we want to deal with, and so just careful, sensitive about a slow bleed, short-term project or a project that was intended to be short-term that begins to develop some legacy funding demands. But we've spent a lot of money in a lot of different places in the last few years since
Well,
COVID.
we're just gonna take over the coordination. We might wanna think about pulling towns.
What do you mean coordination?
We're not doing anything.
All we're doing is.
All we're doing is,
All we're doing is sending.
So we just, so that first year, we just came up with the money, we didn't,
Just made it easier for people that,
cause they
for
could have done,
towns to pay.
because they could have done that, but I mean, the reason the whole thing got started is because. I don't know, we came up with the money, but then all of a sudden the classes were bad.
well, the classes have always been available, it's the ability to pay. The individuals, it's an individual that has to pay for it, the towns aren't paying for it.
The lifeguard has to pay.
And what we said at the time, we had this
So the
opportunity.
towns never paid for it.
No, and so what we said is that we don't wanna see signs posted swim at your own risk because they can't find a lifeguard, we wanted to have every town in the city of Keene to have the opportunity to be able to, and what we've done is, I think, you're gonna see less costs because we've built up the stock of, if he has 20, a lot of that has to do with individuals returning and that have had the certification, because once you have it, you have it.
So I think the
For
idea
a
was,
finite number of years,
Mm.
2 or
we
3
dump
years.
money in the local
Yeah, I-
governments to reimburse,
I never had to get it again after I was a lifeguard.
basically providing
I
a
got
dollar
one.
scholarship. People want to get on. That saves the out-of-pocket,
Oh, okay.
especially the lifeguard person. It helps a small town budget.
60 years ago.
I'm just sensitive about it. 'Cause, you know,
Well, I mean, the bottom line is that. By our intervention. Started happening.
Yes.
It was on the individual before and they. Individuals didn't find that it was something they wanted to do themselves. In order to get hired as a lifeguard. But our actions made it possible to have a pool of certified lifeguards.
It certainly helped.
Where there wouldn't have been one before.
You know, you think about it, if somebody has to
So
pay
that's
$1,000 to become a lifeguard, what are they gonna do for the summer?
Yeah, so that's,
All of a sudden, it's not quite a benefit for them.
yeah, well, that's what I'm saying, then eventually. These towns, we might wanna start transitioning it in it. To start billing these towns. For those things.
Well, all we have to do is funding.
Yeah, and
lifeguards.
yeah, we're not gonna,
Have to figure.
yeah, we would just cease the funding.
So I'm just sensitive, because you know, you get that, you get rural.
Well, if we just cease the funding, though, that's not going to motivate the towns to continue. Pick up our end of it. Like, they're just gonna they're just gonna say, oh, well, there's no more funding, so.
That's a risk, but
No, but if we do it the other way, it might entice them to say, okay, it is our responsibility to train, lifeguards. Just like, well, they train, you know, when they hire a police officer, they send them to the academy and they pay for that.
Mhm.
Right? What's the hell's the difference?
well, anyway,
It's $10,000 either way. If you wanna keep it in, that's fine. If you don't, that's fine too. And it's just that it's been one of our more successful programs and it's made a difference in multiple
It does, yeah.
communities throughout Cheshire County. I'm gonna move on. The rural last year was $15,000. I put in $10,000, because I think they need to understand that this is it. If we do it this year, this is it, and that they are gonna have to come up with a different plan after this.
You know, we went through a scenario with with an agency that was struggling 15 years ago or so. And, we agreed to help them out a little bit. And we agreed to help them out again. And after a fairly short period of time, they came to always need the money. And the delegation didn't really like kind of the backdoor permanent funding of this particular agency. So they said, listen, we're gonna do it maximum 5 years, we're gonna phase it out. Just trying to help you out, not trying to become funding partner. A little tough time, get you out of a tough time, figure it out, you know, because can't. There's no end to the agency and could otherwise approach us.
Did the organization survive?
It did.
Yeah.
And they were location.
This is a seventh annual Radical World. This year they have keynotes, Frederick Riley, who's executive director of the Aspen Institute. And his conversation is about Weave, the social fabric project. And then, they also have a person who's gonna be talking about, Project Protect Food Systems and Frontlines, and they have the entrepreneur track. They have the clean energy track, land community track. And, that's just a few of the highlights from it. And again, it is something it's an economic, on some levels, an economic boom for the community while they're here. It's about 500 people, that come into this area. And, it's the only program in the country like this.
I'll equate this with, funding organizations. Equate it with the swamp bats,
Yeah,
back when they started.
Yeah.
In what, 2098 or something like that. It was part of my job at the time for these companies that I was. Is we funded them first, one of the first companies to do that. There was only 5 or 6 sponsors. And now the last swamp bat game I went to, there were 63. So you don't have to, you come in for 3 or 4 or 5 years, get it started, and then it snowballs. Take over. I think this is a good plan, dude.
yeah. Okay, yeah. He'll be back.
Board?
Yeah, no. Joe. They're working on some stuff.
Oh, good.
So that's where we stand, but I felt like they needed to start to see that we're starting to step away.
Yeah, and I just think it's just a little point of sensitivity because we're not gonna run out of projects that are safety net related for the county historically for the last 200-300 years. And even things like the Chamber of Commerce. That begins to tip us into economic development. Not sure in the long run. Kind of a real decision to engage more the economic development. I mean, given the chamber's $85,000, which at some levels more than we give some outside agencies within decades. I'm just sensitive about the
I
the
understand.
spread a little bit.
And again, I mean, what I started to do is to start to pull back a little bit so that they understand. And that's what I did with Jaffrey and Range. Last year was 10,000 and 10,000. This year it's 5,000.
And you know, if the delegation was fine with kind of leaning in a little bit more to economic development. Yeah. That's their decision.
And the only thing that's not here is the $6,000 that I just talked to you about in reference to smart ride and the transmission, which would be added in. And so that would bring it.
Well, why wouldn't we just take that out of the budget?
We can, but we can actually backfill after the fact.
I don't think we need to list that as a brochure.
Okay, then I'll just I'll just go that direction.
I think it's just a vehicle repair, and if anybody asks to replace a transmission.
Yeah.
A lot of miles.
Okay,
I mean, you Cheryl, but that's a routine thing.
so what that brings it down, the initial excess that we had was $2,165,006. That brings it down to $2,041,976 that we would put into the fund balance. And move forward from there. So, like I've said from day one, as long as, we want to at least receive about $3.1 million funding, and we've been receiving, the year before was 5.4 million, this year it's 5.2 million. So we believe that if there is a decrease in sub levels, it won't go down to, it would probably dip into the fours and stay there. Because we've been doing this for a while.
So. Eaton and Hunt will have a discussion about. The extent to which we use the project. Indicate taxes to be raised next year's budget.
It's dangerous, it's dangerous, but for years, we didn't want to use ProShare. And we did everything in our power, so that number of 3 million used to be, many years ago, like 750,000. Went to 1.2, went to 2 million, and it's really at this, but we were holding back as, and then over the last few years, they wanted us to continue to utilize that. I will tell you that I can't, with the union contracts that are coming up. We're not the norm. If you look at counties, you look at the city of Keene, we are not the norm. Budgeting has been here. What else has been here? I'm not saying we're gonna be here, but reality is that you could see in this year's budget a 2% or 3% increase overall in taxes to be raised. That's, or we're just gonna continue to dig a hole where we're gonna have to fill it every year, year in and year out. At some point, you have to own it a little bit. And so that's, those are the things Cheryl and I talk about daily
And just,
and try to shape all that.
Hunt's view is always, he wants to use half of the pro share money that's left over to reduce taxes next year's.
I get that, and what we can show him is, we're doing that. And
Yeah,
it will never be enough, but we know we're already doing it. So that's where we stand. Is there any thoughts, any questions on that?
No, it's pretty de minimis.
Okay. I tried not to, any projects I could get done now, but to be honest with you, with all the work we've done over the last few years, there's less projects to do. So.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. So do we need to have you guys approve this so that if the executive committee asks, or
Well, I think we should be on record as recommending the distributions of the pro share funds.
as stated?
Yeah.
Okay, all right, and there's a second.
Second.
Any questions? Seeing none, Commissioner Wasback, Commissioner England. Commissioner Clark. I knew there was a who in there someplace. Okay, next thing and last thing for me is opiate funds. As you know, every year we receive, we continually throughout the year receive opiate funds. Currently, we have a little over $300,000 in there because we just received a major check about a month and a half ago of about $170,000. That bumped us over $300,000. My suggestion, and there's one department that's not in here, and it's the chiefs that I didn't add in, but I can add it in. Is last year we assisted Reality Check with.
I don't see the jail.
The jail had
They have a separate fund.
yeah.
Does our
And
narc-
drug court, it still has their monies from last year.
Okay.
So that's why I didn't add them in.
Does our Narcan expenditures come out of this?
Did we buy that?
Well, we have the map here, so.
Or did we
They
have to-
were given to us.
Did we have to buy it?
You don't have any?
Oh, we have plenty.
So
No, I know that we purchased Narcan, through this SAMHSA grant,
Right.
but that's running out. So, and for our ambulances,
But at no charge, part of the stock.
correct.
No, okay.
So the hospital gets a bunch of money for that, I think. They. I don't think they're paying for it. I don't think, but they weren't at one time. Is there any thought to Narcan stations? AEDs or other things in the region that tailgate on the opioid funds?
It would be hard pressed to do the AEDs.
Money ought to be utilized. for what it's intended to.
Well.
The
50% of the overdose victims arrest. Times they need defibrillation, respiratory support. So it's not unconnected in terms of the fatality. Just throwing it out there. So who is missing, you said?
Just the EMS is still the one that's not on there. And we probably would go with towards a $20,000 grant on that.
Are there other consumables that could be identified and allocated to overdose issues?
Albeit related, but it allows them to put together training, whether in the community, for all fire departments, or citizens, or for his own staff. And that's what Eli did. Eli, put together a program like that last year and had multiple trainings where he had 40, 50 police officers from around Cheshire County here. And he had brought in trainers to do the training, and it was a great success. And he wants to continue that training. That's why he has $15,000 in there. But I would say that since this is their first year, everybody last year was receiving 20,000.
Yes, I mean, that $20,000 would certainly help continue our community outreach education for first aid, stop bleed, Narcan training. That has been very well received.
Yeah, because I'll bet there's probably training materials that you would get related to that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Reality Check last year was a group that we worked with over in Jaffrey. And they did a lot of work with individuals that issues with opioid crisis in the workplace, and they continue to do that work. They work with employers, work with employees, keep them employed, so that they can maintain their job and they support that whole system. They also run groups, they also do all the other stuff. And I like it because it's over in the Jaffrey area. It's not Keene centric. It's not, and a lot of times, a lot of the program is in this region, or in the city. So, Serenity Center, same thing over here on Mechanic Street. They do a lot with support around and case management around and courses and classes around individuals suffering from addiction as a whole, but opiate, it's one of their primes. Monadnock Family Service, Phil Weisick reached out to me and had some programming that they thought they could do. And I felt it matched up well with what we were looking at, and I can get that out if you want me to and read it to you again, but I read to you the day that you guys, when we first talked about it, but I think it would be appropriate. I'm gonna skip the next one and then another one after that, but
Just a quick related question. How's the doorway project doing?
I think they're doing well. Yeah. I haven't heard a lot about it. And we used to have a relationship with them because they did a lot of our therapies through drug court. And we went a different direction. So. So there's, You Are Not Alone. that is the program down on Carpenter Street. And in Cheshire, in this area, they do a majority of the AAs and the NAs programming, and they have a support network down there too. So there'd be another program that we would look to see how we can support them. They were Serenity Center. When they first started out, Serenity Center was down on Carpenter Street, across from the Russell Park. And then they separated and they stayed there. So, and they, let me just get this so I don't mess it up.
They had a divorce,
They did.
internal fraction.
You are not alone. Trusted servants of recovery to promote the spiritual and mental health of people in recovery from addiction and provide a safe place for those who wish to recover in substance-free 12-step environment.
Different than Serenity.
They already did. It was actually Serenity Center suggested that we give them money. Because they run more the NA and the AA programs than the Serenity Center does. There's actually a Sam Lake, who is the executive director of Serenity Center, said, you know, next year you guys should really think about. Because I had forgotten they're doing the
I
work.
guess I'm not sure what the difference is between them, but I
And I say, if they're doing the work and they're doing the same thing, and they're, you know, the need is there, and they've got the population coming in both places, so be it. And we not one and why do we choose one and not the other? So. You have the sheriff's training, and then the other two, I'm. One of the things that I discussed, and I reached out to deputy or assistant attorney general Bonfetti, who oversees this whole process. Because I wanted to make sure we're staying within the guidelines of what we can and can't do. And one of the things that we're seeing is that a lot of the individuals that are in opiate addiction, they have kids, and either their spouse is now raising them alone or grandparents are taking them on, and it's a huge, bigger issue than I thought. And so, New Hampshire Care Collaborative and the Kids Collaborative, both working in these areas. And I thought, can we utilize this to help put these kids around camps, you know, that they may not be able to go to, that may not respite for their parents, whatever it may be that we could help support them, maybe transportation and needs to see their parent incarcerated or whatever it may be. And his email back to me was, if it is directly linked to an individual with an opiate issue, then that would be appropriate, because it strengthens the tie of the individual struggling with opiate, that their kids are being taken care of, and it takes a stressor off them. With that being said, he said, how do you track that? How do you, and so I sent an email to both of them last night, Sally Millay at Kids Collaborative, and Jessica White at the New Hampshire Care Collaborative or Service Link, both who oversee the program and oversee the programs, and say you need to come up with some level of data outcome-based process that shows that these individuals are individuals that otherwise, and it may mean your number is 30, goes down to 15, but that's who we can serve. We can't serve anybody outside of that.
Doug, do you have people in your house who are in jail because of opioid related disorders
Oh,
that you can track?
huge percentage, probably based on drug of choice data, opioids are about 45% of those with a substance use disorder. And those with a substance use disorder are about 80% of the total. So,
So,
and there are
uh,
40 or so with opioid. Actually, the more accurate way to measure it is there are about 40 individuals on some form of MAT, now called MOUD.
Well, that's GOOD. Do those inmates have to pay for televisits? Whatever the system is we use for visitation via video visits?
Yes.
So
For-
if you're in jail for an opioid disorder thing, and apropos of what you just said about
mhm.
visitation, is there an opportunity to spare them the expense of video costs to see their families? Is that bit? Don't they pay quite a bit to video visit?
Yeah, that's more expensive than a phone call. I don't know what it costs them per minute or per visit. There aren't a whole lot of video visits that happen.
All right,
Well, there's
But-
probably,
Go ahead.
but reason, yeah. I mean, I don't know if that's outside the parameters of normally we think about the opioid money going to reimburse people that provided services or that sort of thing versus. I don't know, I'm just throwing it out there. And, video visitation could be more popular if it was. We can allocate identify through the numbers that opioid related disorders, people that are affected by it suffer financially because they can't see their kids because it's too expensive to do video,
yeah.
then I don't know.
Well, it's the bottom line is, he says in here, RSA 126-8:8615 is one base of it, but then he goes to 16. It says, it allows for support for public and non-public school programs and services for student and services for students with, OUD and concurrent SUD and mental health issues, or who have been affected by OUD and any OUD or co-occurring SUD, MS issues within their family. So it allows for us to be creative around this if we choose to. So,
But do we get commissions off of the video or just the telephone?
We get it off of both. That supports a lot of inmate programs, and tons of inmate programs are paid for from those commissions.
So if we use some of the opioid money to expand video family connections, then you help the inmate and their family maintain some sort of nuclear presence. Get commissions.
Win-win.
So win-win.
Mhm.
As I mean, like Chris, when we put in all that video stuff, it was like the be all and the end all of sliced bread and vanilla ice cream. It was great, but it doesn't utilize much, probably because there's costs associated.
Why is it so expensive? Is it just because it's a vendor that we,
We have put those out to bid periodically. I think. Yeah, done that from time to time.
when we were looking at a telephone, like two in the whole country, that's both users. Our commission that we get is negative compared to what they charge. Is there a way, I mean, we own the equipment, right? We need that middleman.
I think you do. And I don't think we own the.
I don't think we own.
I don't think we own the tech.
Yeah.
AT&T or Verizon.
Well, I just heard you said that. And
So I don't know, inmate visitation. You know, when you're talking about families and the video, they do an awful lot by these days with emails and texts. And again, the number of video visits is down, but also they're could be talking to families. They also be talking to friends, acquaintances, drug dealing friends. It's not it's not solely about supporting and children is rare. I mean, not to be cynical about it, but the women have a more likelihood that they're connecting with children that way. The men are rarely involved in the lives of their children. Sadly, they have children, but
yeah, no, that's a good point.
just what the scope of like the impact in terms of connecting families may not be what you think it is.
I get that.
Yeah, so I think the other side of it is, if we're allowed to do programming for these kids that are affected by this, and send them off to the camps, send them to whatever that they may not be able to do, it's not a bad thing.
Kind of my dad's in jail camp.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's,
On a summer camp for all the kids who have trees in jail.
Operation protocol. Send it out.
It might be true. I mean, how many disadvantaged camps, city camps do you have? Don't have any reason. All right, just.
yeah, so
moving on.
what one of them said, that where they work with over 30 caregivers, which includes dozens of kinship families across Cheshire to support the needs of these families whose lives have been impacted by an increased opiate epidemic.
I'm just thinking, we got $100,000.
Eight, yeah, they work with 8 families totaling a total of 22 children this year. So, I mean, so I just think it's just something to think about. I mean, and again, if you want a little bit more time to digest, if you have questions on the opiate one, that's fine. We have time on that. If you don't, and I would just say that we bring it forward to a motion as stated, and then move it forward from there.
Terry can think about it again. Distribution.
Well, I mean, can we just use the money for those rehabilitation programs that sort of went away during COVID? Volunteers, all that.
There would be
We
an hour.
talk about recidivism a lot, and we're the county's biggest rehabilitation center. If that's true, then why don't we just use the money for that? Maybe we can affect some of these people and see that they don't come back.
Just an hour.
Yes. We gave her 20,000 last year. They used not all, a very small portion of it. So they have that for the programming that they need.
It is such a chronic, persistent issue that it's difficult to motivate people to recover.
Yeah.
It's no different now than detox in the 70s. Just being the same people over and over again, it takes a long time for people to get sick and tired of being sick and tired.
I mean, it's just, you see people, I happened to see somebody last night that was up and coming manager of many restaurants in the area. I saw him last night, and know that he's been struggling with issues a while, and last night was no different. You see that emptiness in them, and it's the struggle there is every day, right?
All right.
So is there a motion? Is there a second?
Second.
Commissioner Wasmac, Commissioner England, Commissioner Clark. Okay.
You want to open up the
Along.
Often, not. But right downtown.
I'm gonna keep moving on, any old business? Any new business?
Refugee.
We have, yeah, we have a meeting in, early August that we're looking at, correct?
Yes,
Yeah.
August. I believe it's August 7th or August 8th that we're looking at preliminary stages with a lot of groups that we got from,
All of a sudden,
You see Lauren, like.
yeah,
Email.
yeah, I got it too.
yeah. You know, all of a sudden, it was like 5 or 6 people and trying to get all of them together. I finally said, just schedule a meeting. Who can be there to start with will be there. The others will come in time. Because it was just like,
Hybrid meeting.
Actually,
Yeah.
I think it's gonna just be primarily Zoom. Since we have people
yeah,
from
but you
different
can
spots
be
in
in
the
the
state.
if you want.
So you can get Wednesday the 7th.
Actually, I'm Thursday the 8th. Yeah. And no specific time yet, but first half of the day, what it's looking.
All right.
Yeah,
Earlier.
and is Rick able to be part of that?
He hasn't said yet.
So
he won't
keep.
I'll make
backing
sure
him
he
in the
can.
head.
Maybe he'd want to come down in person.
Okay,
But I'll keep you updated once we have it really.
Yeah.
It's
all right, consent agenda items, vote to accept the weekly manifest and minutes of July 10th, 2024. There's a second,
Okay.
Commissioner Wasback.
Aye.
Commissioner England. And Commissioner Clark. Calendars, any changes to it?
no
Nothing.
changes right now, just on the 31st. Jack, I think you were out of the room. One of you was out of the room. But on July 31st, our meeting starts at 9:30 at Maplewood,
And on the 24th, thanks for going.
and it's canceled. Yeah, make it
Oh,
official.
Yeah, that was the other reason is you weren't gonna be here either.
Yeah, unless anything comes up, no meeting.
Following week. Okay, so general discussion none. We do have a non-public public session, C 91A32A, the disability promotion or compensation any public employee of such employer or the investigation of any charges against them or unless the employee affected has the right to public meeting and requests that meeting be open. In each case, the request shall be granted. And I ask that the chief stay in the room and then everybody else can go away and have a great week. Thank you, guys.
Bye-bye.
Public session is adjourned.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
I mean, trying to think if there's any reason to.
no, I think that's one, before we start,
Pause it first.
just so people don't wait around till after.
Exactly.
That there's some substantive reason.
Did you say Kim staying on?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Then yeah, we pause.
10:37.
At 10:37, we came out.
No votes taken. No decisions made. Another non-public.
Done. So motion to adjourn.
Look at
I
it.
just something on there just in case you guys want to bring anything up around any conversations we've had over the last few weeks around any. Oh. Gonna stay on there for a little bit. Because it may be that you guys, we may have to. Talk about.
Is there any reason that we went to this brief?
Yeah, because I have to track down some people that didn't properly fill it out over the past couple of weeks because of vacations and whatnot. So there's holes messing up the data. So this just gives
But
you.
it's going back to
preview.
the,
Yes, yep.
So motion to adjourn.
Aye.
Yes.
Aye.
Yes, all right, we are adjourned.
Okay, thanks.